Lieutenant James Miller stared at the massive alien warship through the window of his small apartment on Luna Base. The purple-hulled vessel hung in space like an angry storm cloud, its presence a clear message to Earth's governments. He knew why they were here. The Galactic Alliance had been making increasingly demanding requests for human assistance over the past few months. The door chimed. Before James could respond, it slid open with a hiss. Two tall, gray-skinned beings in sleek military uniforms stepped inside, their four-fingered hands resting on strange weapons. Behind them stood Captain Trell, his blue-scaled face bearing what passed for a smile among his kind. "Lieutenant Miller," Trell's translator crackled. "Your presence is required aboard the Stellar Vanguard." James crossed his arms. "I'm retired from military service, Captain. Find someone else for whatever mission you're planning." The alien captain's smile widened, revealing rows of metallic teeth. "This is not a request, human. This is an order." "Your alliance has no authority over Earth citizens," James replied calmly, though his muscles tensed for action. "The treaties are clear on that." Trell moved closer, his 7-foot frame towering over James. "The treaties also specify cooperation in matters of galactic security. Your specific talents are needed. Refuse, and Earth's application for full Alliance membership might face unfortunate delays." James felt his jaw tighten. The Alliance knew exactly how to apply pressure. Earth desperately needed full membership for access to advanced medical and environmental technology. His personal freedom wasn't worth the suffering of millions. "How long?" he asked. "One standard galactic month, perhaps two." Trell's throat sacs pulsed with satisfaction. "Pack nothing. All equipment will be provided." James glanced around his sparse apartment. After 15 years in Earth's Special Forces and another 5 training lunar security teams, he had few possessions he cared about. "Fine. Let's get this over with." The transport to the Stellar Vanguard was brief but telling. The alien guards kept their weapons ready, despite James being unarmed. Their nervous movements and constant scanning made him curious. What kind of mission required a human so badly that they'd risk diplomatic incidents to get one? The ship's interior was a maze of curved corridors and strange symbols. The air carried a metallic tang that made James's nose itch. Crew members of various species stopped to stare as they passed. Some showed fear, others disgust, and a few displayed what seemed like pity. Trell led them to a sealed chamber. Inside, medical equipment lined the walls, much of it looking more like torture devices to human eyes. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms approached, holding a scanner. "Medical examination first," Trell announced. "Standard procedure. Nothing invasive," James warned, remembering stories from other humans who'd worked with the Alliance. The 4-armed doctor worked quickly, muttering in its native tongue as readings appeared on floating screens. James caught Trell studying the results with intense interest. "Remarkable," the doctor said through its translator. "The genetic markers are even stronger than expected. He will do perfectly." "What genetic markers?" James demanded. Trell ignored the question. "Take him to his quarters. We depart in 1 hour." As James followed his guards through more winding corridors, he noticed something odd. The crew's reactions were becoming more extreme. One young alien actually pressed itself against a wall to avoid coming near him. Another dropped a tool and ran. His quarters, when they reached them, were surprisingly large but clearly modified. The thick walls and reinforced doors spoke of a cell more than crew accommodation. The guard sealed him in without a word. James sat on the bed, which was thankfully designed for humanoid bodies, and smiled slightly. Whatever had the Alliance so spooked that they'd strong-arm a human into service was bound to be interesting. They clearly needed him badly enough to risk Earth's anger, yet they also feared him enough to take extreme precautions. He lay back, closing his eyes. Years of special operations had taught him to rest when possible. But his mind kept turning over the doctor's words about genetic markers and the crew's strange reactions. Something big was coming. And somehow, humanity was at the center of it all. 8 hours into the journey, James found himself in the Stellar Vanguard's briefing room. The chamber was circular, with a large holographic projector in its center. Captain Trell stood before a group of senior officers, their varied anatomies making the seats look like an architect's nightmare. "Display target vessel," Trell commanded. The hologram flickered to life, showing a massive ship unlike anything James had ever seen. Its hull was dark gold, shaped like a twisted double helix. It was easily 5 times larger than the Stellar Vanguard. "This," Trell said, "is the Ancestral Dawn, a derelict vessel discovered in the gray zone between Alliance and Coalition space." James studied the image. "Doesn't look like any known design." "Because it isn't." Trell's throat sacs pulsed with excitement. "It predates every known spacefaring civilization. Our scientists estimate it's at least 1 million years old." The other officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One of them, a creature with crystalline skin, spoke up. "Tell him about the lost teams, Captain." Trell's expression darkened. "We've sent 3 recovery teams to study the vessel. None returned. The Coalition lost 2 teams of their own before declaring the ship off-limits. And you think 1 human will succeed where 5 alien teams failed?" James asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. "Show him the scan results," ordered Trell. The hologram changed, displaying complex patterns that James recognized as biological data. 2 sets of readings flashed side by side. "The left pattern is from the ship's outer hull," explained a science officer with tentacles instead of arms. "The right is a human DNA sequence. Notice anything?" James leaned forward. Even to his untrained eye, the similarities were striking. "They match." "Partially," the science officer corrected. "About 30% correlation, higher than any other known species. We believe the ship's defense systems are keyed to recognize specific genetic patterns." "And you think that's why your teams disappeared? The ship killed them for having the wrong DNA." The crystalline officer clicked its faceted fingers nervously. "The teams reported strange sensations before we lost contact. They said the ship was scanning them, judging them." James walked around the hologram, studying the vessel from all angles. "If you're right about the age, this ship is from around the time humans first appeared on Earth." "Precisely." Trell's excitement was barely contained. "We believe whoever built this ship might have had something to do with humanity's unusually fast evolution." "You think they made us?" James felt a chill run down his spine. "We think they chose your species for something," Trell replied carefully. "And now we need that connection." The hologram shifted again, showing the ship's interior scans. Vast chambers filled with unknown technology stretched for kilometers. "Our mission is simple," Trell continued. "We dock with the Ancestral Dawn. You leave a small team inside. Find the main control center and determine if the vessel can be salvaged. The technology inside could advance our civilization by centuries." "If it doesn't kill us first," James muttered. "You'll have our best combat specialists with you," Trell assured him. "Plus emergency evacuation protocols. The same protocols that failed 5 other teams." The room fell silent. Finally, the crystalline officer spoke again. "We've studied the previous failures. We believe the ship won't attack if you're present. Your DNA should pacify it." James laughed without humor. "So I'm your genetic key. No wonder you were so insistent on recruiting me." "The ship's secrets could help billions," Trell said softly, "including your people on Earth. When do we start?" "We reach the target in 10 hours. Get some rest, Lieutenant. You'll need it." As James left the briefing room, he heard the officers break into worried discussions. They were hiding something. The DNA correlation was interesting, but it didn't explain their fear of him, or the extreme security measures. Back in his quarters, James lay awake, thinking. An ancient ship that recognized human DNA. A mysterious ancient species that might have influenced human evolution. And a crew that treated him like a bomb waiting to explode. Whatever was waiting aboard the ancestral Dawn, he had a feeling it would change everything. The docking procedure was delicate. The Stellar Vanguard's pilot carefully maneuvered their ship alongside the massive ancestral Dawn, whose golden hull seemed to shimmer despite the absence of nearby stars. James stood in the airlock chamber with his team. Two insectoid warriors named Kix and Lex, and a robotics specialist called Unit 7. All wore advanced environmental suits. James noticed his suit was markedly different, simpler, less armored. "Your suit is designed for maximum skin contact," Trell explained through the comm system. "We believe the ship's sensors need to detect your biological signature." "Wonderful," James muttered. "I'm wearing the equivalent of tissue paper." The airlock cycled. A connection tube extended from their ship, making contact with what seemed to be an entrance point on the ancient vessel's hull. "Readings?" Trell demanded. No hostile response. Unit 7 reported. "The hull appears to be accepting our presence." James led the way across the connection tube. His magnetic boots kept him secured as they approached the alien ship's entrance. As they got closer, lines of light began appearing on the hull, spreading out like glowing veins. "It's activating," Kix chittered nervously, just like with the other teams. But instead of the reported attacks, a doorway simply materialized in the hull. James felt a slight tingling sensation throughout his body. "The ship is scanning me," he reported. "Doesn't feel threatening. More like curious." They entered a vast chamber. Their helmet lights revealed walls covered in flowing symbols that seemed to move when viewed directly. The air was breathable, according to their sensors, but they kept their suits sealed. "The architecture is organic," Unit 7 observed. "The entire ship appears to be a blend of biological and mechanical systems." They moved deeper into the ship, following corridors that seemed to open up before them and close behind them. James realized they were being guided. "Captain," he called over the comm, "I think the ship is leading us somewhere specific." "Maintain caution," Trell replied. Previous teams reported similar experiences before. The captain's voice cut off as they entered a massive spherical chamber. In its center floated a column of shifting light. The walls were covered with what looked like neural patterns, pulsing with soft light. "This is new," Unit 7 said. No previous team reported finding this chamber. James felt drawn to the central column. As he approached, the light began to coalesce into more definite shapes. His suit's sensors went crazy. "Lieutenant," Kix warned, "we're detecting massive energy buildups." "Hold position," James ordered. He took another step forward. A voice filled his mind. Not words exactly, but pure concepts, images, emotions. The ship was trying to communicate. "There's some kind of neural interface," he reported. It wants direct contact." "Negative." Trell's voice crackled back to life. "Do not remove any part of your suit. That's an order." James stared at the shifting light. In it, he saw glimpses of Earth, of human history, of possibilities and purposes he could barely comprehend. The ship wasn't just scanning him. It was searching for something. "Captain," he said calmly, "I don't think we have a choice. The ship won't unlock its secrets unless someone interfaces with it. And I'm pretty sure that someone has to be human." "The risk is too high," Trell argued. "We can find another way." "No," James replied. "We can't, and I think you knew that from the start." Before anyone could stop him, James unsealed his helmet. The ship's atmosphere felt thick, charged with potential. The light column pulsed brighter. "Lieutenant Miller, I order you to." James reached out and touched the light. His world exploded into infinite understanding. He saw everything. The ship's creators, their plans for humanity, the reason for his genetic compatibility. Most importantly, he understood why the Alliance feared humans so much. He smiled as the ship's consciousness merged with his own. Captain Trell's orders didn't matter anymore. Nothing would ever be the same. The last thing he heard before the transformation began was Kix's terrified voice. His eyes. His eyes are glowing gold. Streams of information flooded James's mind. The neural connection with the ancestral dawn showed him truths that no human had known for 1,000,000 years. Through his eyes, now glowing with the same golden light as the ship's systems, he watched humanity's true history unfold. James. Kix's voice seemed distant. You need to disconnect. But James wouldn't. The ship was showing him everything. He saw them, the precursors, tall, graceful beings of pure energy and matter who had seeded countless worlds with life. But Earth had been special. Humanity had been their masterpiece, designed not as servants or soldiers, but as heirs. His vital signs are off the charts, Unit 7 reported. Brain activity exceeding known human limits. Through the ship's memories, James watched the precursors' final days. A great war that torn the galaxy apart. The decision to hide their technology until their chosen inheritors were ready. The careful encoding of human DNA to respond to their systems. The ship, James spoke, his voice carrying strange harmonics. It's not just a vessel. It's a key, a gift. Captain Trell's voice cut through the comm system. Lieutenant Miller, if you can hear me, the Alliance High Command is demanding an immediate report. What are you seeing? James laughed softly. Now he understood the Alliance's fear. Their scientists had discovered fragments of the truth in human DNA, hints of carefully engineered potential that no other species possessed. They hadn't brought him here to salvage the ship. They'd brought him here to find out if their fears were justified. They were right to be afraid, he whispered. The neural interface deepened. James felt the ship's systems recognizing him, accepting him, changing him. In his mind, he could access every part of the vast vessel. Its weapons, its drives, its incredible technological secrets, all responding to his thoughts. The human's physiological structure is changing, Unit 7 announced. Cellular reconstruction in progress. Kix and Lex raised their weapons, but James barely noticed. He was too absorbed in the ship's final message, the precursor's last gift to their children. Captain, he said, his voice stronger now. I know why the other teams disappeared. The ship didn't kill them. It sent them away. It was waiting for someone like me, a human. Explain, Trell demanded. The precursors knew their enemies would try to steal their technology, so they programmed this ship to recognize their chosen inheritors. Anyone else who tried to claim it would be transported to a safe location. They're all alive, Captain. Your missing teams. The Coalition's teams. All safe on a shielded world. James turned to face his team, golden light still streaming from his eyes. The neural interface had changed him. He could feel new strengths, new abilities awakening in his enhanced cells. The ship is ours now, he continued. Humanity's inheritance. And with it comes a choice. What choice? Trell's voice shook slightly. The precursors left us more than technology. They left us a mission, a purpose. James gestured, and holographic displays filled the chamber, showing star maps and ancient battles. There's something coming, Captain. Something that drove the precursors to create us, to hide their legacy until we were ready. Ready for what? Kix asked. To take their place, to defend this galaxy from what lies beyond it. James smiled. The precursors didn't make us to join your alliance, Captain. They made us to protect it. Silence filled the comm channel. Finally, Trell spoke again. High Command is ordering us to withdraw, to quarantine the vessel and await reinforcements. I'm afraid that won't be possible, James replied calmly. The Ancestral Dawn accepts me as its rightful pilot. We're leaving. You can't, Trell began. Don't worry, Captain. Your team will be returned safely to your ship, but humanity's test period is over. It's time we claimed our place in the galaxy. As if responding to his words, the chamber filled with golden light. The ship's ancient engines hummed to life, ready to carry humanity's first true inheritor to his destiny. The age of hiding was over. The age of humanity had begun. The ancestral Dawn's control chamber hummed with power. Golden light pulsed through its neural pathways as James, still connected to the ship's consciousness, faced the growing crisis. On the main display, the Stellar Vanguard had moved into an attack position. "This is your final warning." Captain Trell's voice boomed through the comm. "Power down the vessel's systems immediately." James shook his head, golden eyes gleaming. "You know I can't do that, Captain. Not now that I know the truth." 3 more Alliance warships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons charged. James felt the ancestral Dawn's defense systems activating automatically, responding to his thoughts. "Your team is safe," James announced. "I've transported Kix, Lex, and Unit 7 back to your ship. This doesn't have to end in conflict. You've accessed restricted technology and undergone unauthorized biological modification," Trell replied. "The Alliance cannot allow." James laughed. "Captain, you don't have the authority to allow or disallow anything anymore. This ship recognizes me as its rightful commander. The precursors made that choice 1,000,000 years ago." The Alliance ships tightened their formation. James could sense their targeting systems locking on, their crews nervous but determined. They had no idea what they were facing. "Lieutenant Miller," a new voice cut in, the Alliance Admiral. "Your actions threaten galactic security. Stand down, or we will be forced to fire." James closed his eyes, letting the ship's knowledge flow through him. "Admiral, I respect the Alliance, but you need to understand what's really happening here. The precursors didn't hide this ship to keep its power from humanity. They hid it to protect it until we were ready." "Ready for what?" the Admiral demanded. "To face what's coming. The same threat that forced them to seed Earth with enhanced human life in the first place." James raised his hand, and holographic star charts filled the chamber. "There's something out there, Admiral. Something that even the precursors feared. They created humanity to be the galaxy's defenders when it returns." Warning signals flashed as the Alliance ships charged their main weapons. James felt a twinge of sadness. They still didn't understand. "This is your last chance," the Admiral warned. "No," James replied calmly. "It's yours. The ancestral Dawn cannot be damaged by your weapons. The precursors made sure of that. But I don't want to harm your ships or crews. Let me leave peacefully. Let me gather what humanity needs to fulfill our purpose." "Open fire," the Admiral ordered. Energy beams lanced out from all 4 Alliance ships. They struck an invisible barrier around the ancestral Dawn and dissipated harmlessly. James hadn't even needed to activate the defense systems. They were automatic. "Impossible," Trell whispered over the comm. "Captain," James said softly, "you brought me here because you feared what humanity might become. Now those fears are realized, but not in the way you imagined. We're not your enemies. We're your protectors. The precursors chose us for that role." The ship's sensors detected more Alliance vessels approaching. James knew it was time to leave. "Your missing teams are on a planet in the Carina Nebula," he told them. "Coordinates are being transmitted now. They're all safe, just waiting to be picked up. Consider it a gesture of good faith." "What are you going to do?" Trell asked, his voice heavy with resignation. "First, I'm going to Earth. Our people need to know their true purpose. Then we'll begin preparing. The threat the precursors feared will return within a generation. Humanity needs to be ready." The ancestral Dawn's engines powered up, its golden hull gleaming brighter. "You can't stop us anymore, Captain," James said. "But you can choose to work with us. Earth will still join your alliance, but as equals, not subordinates. As protectors, not subjects." Before anyone could respond, the ship's systems activated at full power. James felt the familiar tug of faster-than-light travel approaching. "See you soon, Captain," he said. "And remember, everything changes from today." The ancestral Dawn vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind 4 stunned Alliance vessels and a galaxy that would never be the same. Humanity's time had finally come. Earth's orbital defense fleet surrounded the ancestral dawn as it emerged from hyperspace. James watched through the ship's sensors as dozens of vessels took up attack positions, their primitive weapons no threat to his vastly superior ship. "This is Earth Defense Command," a familiar voice transmitted. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself." "This is Lieutenant James Miller," he responded. "And I'm bringing humanity's inheritance home." Silence filled the channels for several moments. Finally, "Lieutenant Miller, the one who disappeared during the Alliance recruitment." "The same. I need to speak with the World Council immediately. What I've discovered changes everything." The golden ship hung in space, its presence causing waves of panic and wonder across Earth's surface. Within an hour, the World Council had convened an emergency session. James transmitted his image to their chamber, his glowing eyes and altered appearance causing gasps among the assembled leaders. "Counselors," he began, "the Alliance didn't tell us the whole truth about our place in the galaxy. The precursors, the beings who shaped our species, left us more than just compatible DNA. They left us a mission." Through the neural link, James shared the ship's memories with the Council. They saw the ancient war that had devastated the galaxy, the precursors' decision to create humanity as their successors, the threat that lurked beyond the galactic rim, waiting to return. "My God," one counselor whispered, "we're not just random evolution." "No," James replied. "We were engineered to be guardians. The precursors saw potential in our primitive ancestors, adaptability, creativity, determination. They enhanced those traits, added others, and left us to develop naturally until we were ready." "Ready for what?" another counselor demanded. James projected images of the coming threat, vast beings of dark energy that consumed entire galaxies. The Devourers. They forced the precursors to flee this galaxy. But instead of running, our creators decided to fight back. Through us. The council chamber erupted in argument. James waited patiently until they settled. "The Alliance feared us because their scientists discovered hints of our true nature," he continued. "Human DNA contains locked potential that no other species possesses. The ancestral dawn was designed to activate those dormant genes in selected individuals." "Like what happened to you?" a counselor asked. James nodded. "I'm just the first. The ship can enhance others, carefully chosen humans who will help lead our species into its true role." "The Alliance won't accept this," someone pointed out. "They'll see us as a threat." "They already do," James smiled. "But they've just discovered they can't stop us. The precursors made sure their heirs would have the tools needed to defend themselves, and others." He showed them the ship's capabilities, its weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them, its drives that could cross the galaxy in days, its medical systems that could cure any disease or injury. "This is just the beginning," James explained. "There are more ships like this one, hidden throughout the galaxy. Ships that will only respond to enhanced humans. The precursors left us everything we need to become what they intended." "And what exactly did they intend?" the council president asked quietly. "To be guardians, protectors, not conquerors or rulers, but defenders of all sentient life." James's golden eyes blazed brighter. "The Alliance fears us because they don't understand our purpose. We weren't made to dominate them. We were made to save them." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had just learned it was no accident. They were designed, created, enhanced to be something greater. "The threat is coming," James warned. "We have perhaps 20 years to prepare, to find the other ships, to enhance the right people, to build the defense humanity was meant to provide. And if we refuse this destiny," someone asked, "then everything dies when the Devourers return." The precursors gave us a choice, but they also gave us the responsibility to make the right one. The council president stood. "How do we begin?" James smiled as the ancestral dawn's systems hummed with power and purpose. "We start by accepting who and what we truly are. The real question is, are we ready to become what we were meant to be? The future of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy hung on their answer. 1 month after the ancestral Dawn's arrival at Earth, James stood in the Alliance High Council chamber on their capital world. Behind him hovered the golden ship, its presence a stark reminder of how much had changed. Captain Trell and the other counselors watched as James, his eyes still glowing with the ship's power, addressed the assembly. 3 days ago, your scientists confirmed everything I told you, James began. The Devourers are real. Their advanced scouts have already entered the Outer Rim. We have 18 years before their main force arrives. The chamber erupted in fearful whispers. James waited for them to quiet. Earth has located 5 more precursor vessels, he continued. We've selected and enhanced 15 humans to command them. Each ship has capabilities that match the ancestral Dawn. And you expect us to just accept this? An Alliance counselor demanded. To trust humans with such power? You don't have a choice, James replied calmly. But more importantly, you don't need to fear us. The precursors designed humanity to protect, not conquer. If we wanted to rule your worlds, we could have done it already. He gestured, and holographic displays showed the defensive networks being established throughout the galaxy. Enhanced humans working alongside Alliance forces, teaching them to use new technologies, preparing for the coming storm. Your missing teams have all been returned, James reminded them. Your worlds are safer than ever. And when the Devourers come, you'll be glad humanity exists. Captain Trell stood up. A month ago, I gave you an order, Lieutenant Miller. I was wrong. We were all wrong about humanity's purpose. The order you gave me led to exactly what needed to happen. James smiled. Sometimes the best commands are the ones that backfire completely. The Council President spoke next. We've reviewed Earth's proposed treaty, joint defense agreements, technology sharing, training programs. You're offering us everything, asking only for cooperation in return. Because that's what Guardians do, James explained. We protect. We prepare. We stand ready. The precursors chose humanity for our potential to care about others as much as ourselves. He showed them more images. Human engineers helping rebuild damaged Alliance worlds. Enhanced humans using their new abilities to stop natural disasters. Precursor medical technology freely shared with all species. Your Federation feared us because you saw the weapon the precursors built into our DNA, James said. But you never understood its purpose. We're not a weapon of destruction. We're a shield. The council chambers grew quiet as the truth of his words sank in. Everything humanity had done since gaining the precursor technology had been focused on protection and preparation. We accept Earth's treaty, the council president announced, and we formally apologize for our previous treatment of humanity. Captain Trell's order to bring you to the ancestral dawn may have been wrong, but it led to salvation for us all. James nodded. The next 18 years will be difficult. We'll need to work together, trust each other, prepare for a threat unlike anything this galaxy has seen before. And you believe we can win? Trell asked. The precursors believed we could. They spent millions of years engineering humanity to face this moment. James's golden eyes blazed with determination. We won't let them down. As the council session ended, James prepared to return to the ancestral dawn. Trell approached him one last time. That order I gave you, the captain said quietly, to board a mysterious ship and unlock its secrets. I never imagined it would lead to this. Sometimes the best orders are the ones we think we're giving, James replied, when really, we're just fulfilling something set in motion long ago. He turned to board his ship, then paused. Captain, would you like to see what the precursors left for us to find? There's room for allies aboard. Trell looked at the golden vessel, then back at James. You know, Lieutenant, I think I would. As they walked toward the ship together, former captor and captive, now allies, James smiled. The precursors had known what they were doing when they chose humanity. The galaxy would need both their strength and their heart to survive what was coming. And it all started with one simple order.